I'm capable of some pretty heavy messages, I'm told. Everyone always appreciates them, of course, and I'm grateful that many people are encouraged by the work I do, but I tackle some pretty dark topics. No shortage of places I could go with those ideas. Someone shot a presidential candidate. Unapologetic and shameless corruption in Canadian politics. The media does its absolute best to foster outrage for clicks everywhere we look, only some of which is justified. People are dying on our streets from drugs and hopelessness. Our indigenous communities are desolate with poverty. Climate change ravages our world. Fully unchecked capitalism has sent us spiraling toward wealth inequality and societal breakdown. Not today. It's a beautiful summer day in August. Those of us not on vacation are here in this place, and let's just chill for a minute. Now, I want to talk about happiness or contentment. It's a difficult topic because on the one hand, it's too obvious. Yeah, Mike, no doy, everyone wants to be happy and content. But on the other hand, the things that get in the way of happiness or contentment seem to be wildly varied and hard to define, much less action towards a solution. Fair objections. And I certainly don't want this message to be some trite hand wave of very real and serious issues. But I think a lot of people define happiness as a lack of problems that impede it. I want to challenge that definition with you this morning. Sure, it's nice when things go well and we accomplish what we set out to do without there being a lot of barriers to overcome, but I don't know that such an emphasis on a specific outcome is a complete or even inherently accurate definition of happiness. I think that we get in our own way very easily here. So, what does this have to do with our very interesting scripture passage that we read earlier? I'll try to simplify and summarize the context, but interested parties who want to fill themselves in could just read 2 Samuel chapter 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 to fill in the rest of the story. But here's the relevant Coles notes. Absalom is the king's son. He's been banished from the king's presence because he murdered his brother for reasons that were borderline justifiable. His sister was involved, and now the king doesn't want to see him at dinner anymore. You know, family stuff. Anyway, while the life of Absalom in the Bible is ultimately a tragedy, this particular piece of his life that I'm shamelessly pulling out of context here contains an interesting example for us to consider about happiness. You see, Absalom is not happy sitting in a distant corner of Jerusalem away from his father. Now, when someone is unhappy, there's usually two things that happen. They either settle into misery and bemoan how unhappy they are and fervently wish that some circumstance or person or thing that is not them would change so that they can be happy. They think their happiness depends on not them. Or they accept what they cannot change and act to change what they can. Absalom's behavior in this passage is extreme, but then so was his situation. And it illustrates a willingness to see the external factor in his life as something that will not interfere with his happiness. He can't access his father because to do so requires going through a middleman. He talks to the middleman. The middleman ignores him. He talks to the middleman again. The middleman ignores him again. He sets the middleman's fields on fire. Pause. Sidebar. I have a confession to make. I'm not great at returning emails. Please don't set anything I own on fire. Call me, text me, tap me on the shoulder. I promise I'm doing my best. Anyway, after Absalom sets the middleman's crops on fire, the middleman does in fact stop ignoring him. Yeah, and the end result is a tender reconciliation with his father. If you read ahead, it doesn't last, sadly, but the man certainly lived his life, didn't he? And that's the lesson, isn't it? Live your life. Many people don't really do that. Life happens to them, and they passively exist within it, blaming the things that happen around them for why they aren't happy. It can sound like this: I'll be happy when I have the job. I'll be happy when I have the marriage. I'll be happy when I have the money, the friends, the power, the prestige, the thing I don't have right now. You know what you don't have right now is happiness. And if you don't have that now, the job won't give it to you. And neither will the marriage, or the money, or the friends, the power, the prestige, or anything else. Those obstacles might impede your progress, but they don't have to impede your happiness. All right, so if happiness and contentment come from within, then how do we get there? That's actually the second pitfall. You don't get there. It's not a destination you arrive at, hang your hat on the hook and go, happiness achieved. It's a journey. It's a process. And that process is constantly undergoing refinement as it grows, as it is challenged, or even, here's the hard part of the message, as we cultivate it. And where you start will depend entirely on where you are in your process. For some, it's as simple as the trope about counting your blessings or other gratitude practices. Maybe you need to reach out to someone in need and offer an act of kindness or an encouraging word. These things help. Maybe, perhaps more likely, you need to look yourself very deeply in the mirror and offer yourself some forgiveness that you've been holding back. Maybe you need to offer that forgiveness to someone else that's wronged you if it's safe to do so. It's also possible, I need to talk about this, it's also possible that medical assistance might be necessary to correct chemical imbalances you may be suffering from. I know there's still a lot of really troubling thought in some circles, faith-based and otherwise, about how mental illness is some kind of failure of faith, will, or morality. I promise you that chatter is ignorant, and often it is needlessly callous. You are not less than if you seek help. And if you have Googleable symptoms of mental health disorders of any kind, please do seek out the assistance of a medical doctor. Remember, the journey isn't about always feeling happy. It's about taking small steps each day to nurture that contentment within. Some days will be harder than others. But each step forward, no matter how small, is part of that growth. Today, I challenge each of you to take one step toward cultivating your own happiness. Maybe it's starting a gratitude journal, offering a kind word to someone, forgiving yourself for something that's been weighing you down. Whatever it is, know that you have the power to make your own happy, one step at a time. In a world that often feels overwhelming, remember that you have the power to create your own happiness. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you build day by day, moment by moment. And in that journey, you'll find a contentment that no circumstance can take away. A brief message this morning. Thank you very much.